So I just want to start by saying, if we know there are people in here who have some form of cancer, and anybody who has any form of cancer and heard those words, "you have cancer," has a story to tell. And it should be heard. It should be told and heard. And so I'm very honored and humbled to be here today to speak for you and just tell my story. But hopefully somebody here might gain something out of it for you or for a loved one. First off, I'm a mom, a mother of 3, a Navy veteran, and I've been in healthcare, medical care for 45 years, 40 of it as an anesthetist, and completely blindsided with my husband, who's an anesthesiologist, and we take care of patients every day, looking at lungs for our career, our life, looking at histories and physicals. And so things change in medicine very rapidly. And so my story begins on November 17th in 2017. I was actually on call at the Women's Hospital in Greensboro, Cone's Women's Hospital, and I was doing an emergency C-section. I started to have some chest pressure, and then it turned into pain, and then it climbed and grabbed my throat, and then it started going up my neck, and I thought, well, perhaps I'm having, a girly heart attack, clinical symptoms coming up, some type of event. And when I finished my shift, I went to the ER, and they worked me up, and they did notice that I had some sense of cardiac stimulus, but it wasn't enough. So they threw me in the scanner, and they saw that there was this lung mass growing out of my left lung. It was attached to the pericardium of my heart and my chest wall. And so at that point, after multiple diagnostics, they looked at me and said, "You have stage 4B, all the way, 4B, non-small cell lung cancer. There will be no surgery, there will be no radiation, because it has metastasized to your brain, and it was attacked, all the lymph nodes in the aorta, my spine, my hips, my liver, and my kidneys. It didn't miss anything." And so they said no surgeries and no radiation, that it would be rapidly terminal. It was non-curable, and I would be rapidly terminal. So I looked at my husband. I was very devastated because I'd never smoked a cigarette in my life. It's hard to swallow when you think all your life, if you don't smoke, you won't get lung cancer. And that's what I thought. Every year I went for my annual health physical, and the doctor that saw me annually never once thought that I was at risk for lung cancer, nor would I need any lung cancer screening. So that being said, I was sent to my oncologist, and he looked at me and he said, "I've sent a portion of your tumor out for comprehensive biomarker testing." And at the time, that was extremely novel. It just wasn't done. So I was grateful that he did it. I didn't know how grateful I should be. And he said, "Pray for a targeted therapy mutation." Well, I was way ahead of him on praying. And the day came when well, first off, they offered to radiate my brain so that I could stay lucid and see my children longer, and because I had a high burden of tumor, and I began my chemotherapy. And while I waited for the results, when the results came back, I came back with a mutation, which was really good to know. It was identified as RET, R-E-T, which was roughly about 1 to 1.2% of all the non-small cell lung cancers when I was diagnosed. So nobody had developed any therapy for that little known mutation. And they looked at me, and at that point, he said that things were very grim, and they told me I had 100 days to live. And if I chose to do chemotherapy, I might be able to push it to 120. And so at that point, they sent me home. My only option was palliative care. and they sent me home, and I became rapidly ill and bedridden. I was at home, and I was proceeding to die, and my husband, unbeknownst to me, was up frantically at night. People saw him at work. He was crying, and he was looking for something, anything about the Rett. We had a name. We knew what it was, but there was no treatment. And he came across a little teeny tiny poster presentation of a physician who'd been working on this Rett mutation for 7 years, and he was accepting applicants for a phase 1 drug trial that was getting ready to begin. So he put me in a wheelchair. We flew up to Boston, and this nice man came out and told me. He could have looked like my son, and he'd been the doctor working on this. What do you want to know? And he sat us down, and he pulled out a piece of paper, and he drew how, where do I want to call it? He drew how the cancer's protein was driving the mutation, the cancer, how this mutation was driving, the protein was driving the cancer. And he told me, he said, you've got to go back. I can't treat you because it's not considered ethical for me to treat you. And my heart dropped. And we went back home. The reason we went back is we had to complete the 4 standard rounds of what was considered standard therapy at the time before he could treat me. And my job was to stay alive. I can talk at length about nutrition, organ failure, all kinds of things that come about, side effects at another time. But we managed to do that. I did survive. We got on a plane up there, and on Easter weekend, I think it was, I started my treatment. Now, I'm not going to talk about my drug trial because my husband's going to speak about drug trials. But I will tell you that miracle number 1 was the doctor, the oncologist, looking at something that was extremely novel at the time, doing a comprehensive biomarker test. Patients don't have time. They're weak. They might not have enough tumor, can't go back for a second time. Do the whole thing. Get it done. We found it. We identified it. And then we found a trial, and I got in. So what I want to say is I'm here 6 years later. And yeah, no? Well, thank you for that. It's not done yet. I have a little bit more if I have time. I'm here 6 years later, and I needed to have some surgery, and didn't heal very well, so I came off my medicine for a month because they thought that might be causing it. During that time, my cancer reared its little head up. It was back in my brain and all through my body again. And I started the medicine because you have to be alive. It doesn't matter if you're not healing. I started my medicine again, and my next scans showed in the MRI they didn't see all that stuff. So it was still responding. It wasn't resistant, it was still responding. And I'm here still now, hopeful for that. We know the drug I take has a median of 24 months, and I'm way out there because I was in phase 1. There's not 5 of us in the world that are still alive. So these things are not curative. Okay, they're not curative, but I'm still here, and I swear it's because of the power of prayer and quick action. We have celebrated several happy moments in our family, and I wanted to share that with you because it's just not about cancer sadness. And at lectures, lung cancer is always sad. We called it a race to the altar. All 3 of our children wanted me at their weddings. We had one daughter planning to get married, a date in August, but our son slid in an engagement and a wedding in June before she got married. And then our other daughter got married the following August. And so I'm now a proud grandmother of 4 grandchildren and 2 granddogs. And then I got to see my husband. We got to renew our wedding vows for our 30th anniversary nearly 4 years ago, which was precious, and I could cry. And then I'm going to get to see my mama celebrate her 99th birthday in August. So you got to live for these things. You just live your life every single day. You go for it. And speaking completely from a personal viewpoint, okay, without the drug trial, I would have perished. Simple as that. There's a lot of people out there that love life as much as me. Any cancer. Hands down, Ruiz was right. We need to have our physicians start to do a comprehensive biomarker test for all cancers. Number two, from a medical viewpoint, my participating in the phase 1 drug trial, people don't have to have those brains radiated and suffer from toxic chemotherapy and organ damage like me. And I know that it helped pave the way for all future people with RET mutation. And the biggest thing that blew my mind, Dr. Ruiz was emphasizing, and I can bring it home again, is that the drug I take, selpercatinib, it's for RET, also treats thyroid medullary cancer, colon cancer, and pancreatic cancer if you have the RET mutation. Now there are other, you saw like 30 other non-small cell lung cancers. We're paving the way for all these targeted therapies. And so we really need the community to become aware that how important it is, because my story of survivorship is unusual because we had a critical path of testing, we had the discovery of a clinical trial, and in just-in-time treatment. And it's indicative of how fast diagnostics and therapeutics are advancing and the acute need that we have to have for expanding the comprehensive genomic testing and access to trials to positively change the outcomes for perhaps lung cures and any cancer cures. And that's all I have to say.